So you want to play Mage in 3v3? Well, I got everything you need. Welcome everyone, my name is Trick, and I'm going to tell you all mages out there all of my tricks to not only survive, but to also conquer the 3 vs 3 arenas. Before I start, I would like to cover the recent changes to our fire staff. The first change I want to talk about is that reduce the FlameThrower block stamina damage by 85%. I think this was a really unfair change because the FlameThrower was the only ability that was able to do stamina damage, because our Fireball or Burnout, heavy attacks or light attacks, all of those abilities and attacks basically do no damage to the shields. FlameThrower was the only way that we were able to fight tanks or anybody using Sword and Shield. So if you're fighting somebody with a tower shield, just basically ignore them, because you will never be able to destroy their shield. You will only try to do FlameThrower damage to shield if they are an assassin Sword and Shield build. The next change is that the FlameThrower won't be able to crit from behind anymore. This one won't change our playstyle a lot, but it's a very big nerf because it's reducing our damage output by a significant amount. The first thing we're gonna talk about is the build. For this build, we're gonna be utilizing the FlameThrower. I still believe that the FlameThrower is possibly the best abilities for mages for the 3v3 arenas, given that it has an amazing sustained damage, it has no cooldown, therefore you can use it for any situation, to be aggressive when you're doing defensive, just to chip in a little damage, to do a lot of damage. The FlameThrower, I think it's an amazing ability that people still haven't realized the full potential of it. Obviously, we're going to start by getting Pyromania while holding a fire staff in below 50% health, deals 15% increased damage. Now, I know that this is not going to happen all the time, but believe me, whenever you go below 50% max health, that extra 15% damage will help a lot. Obviously, we're going to pick up the FlameThrower followed by every single one of the abilities below, because we want to get that the FlameThrower has no cooldown. This is a mandatory skill. Then we're going to get, whenever you deal burning damage, you get that 10% extra 45, which is basically you will have this the entire time that you're in the arena, because the enemy more likely than not will always be burning. Then we want to pick Burnout all the way to the bottom, because we need that 50% further distance from Burnout, given that this is our only survivability mobility ability. We're going to get combat speed. Again, whenever we have the FlameThrower, we want as many abilities as we can have that give us movement speed. Not only this one ability, it gives you the speed even if you don't hit the enemy. Just by using a fire ability, you will immediately get that 10% movement speed for 5 seconds. So as soon as you activate the fire staff, even if the enemy is not receiving damage, you get that extra 10% movement speed. Or as soon as the arena starts, whenever you throw the fireball to the enemy side of the arena, you will get that 10% movement speed. That's why I think this is such an amazing ability. We're also going to get Kindle. Burning lasts 20% longer. Since we're going to be using the FlameThrower, we want our burnings to last on the target for as long as we possibly can. That way we'll get the most out of letter burn. And last but not least, we're going to get Reheat. That does it for this side of the build over here. When we move to the left side of the build, we can either pick Spell Focus or we can pick Fire Restoration. Since we're not going to be using heavy attacks for this build, I don't think that this one is mandatory, plus a 5% mana hit, it's really not that great. Since we had to pick one of these two, I'd rather pick that the heavy attacks reduce your cooldowns by 10%. Even if you use one heavy attack and you hit the enemies, I'd rather have the 10% cooldown reduction rather than 5% mana, because that way I can use my Fireball more often, or even Burnout. That's why we're going to pick this one. Next, we're going to pick Clear Mind. While holding a fire staff and above 50% mana, you gain 5% in power. As long as you can keep that 50% mana or above, you have that 5% in power, which is very good. And again, this will happen almost all of the time at the beginning of the fight. And if you're able to maintain your mana, above 50%, you should always have this up. For Fireball, we're only going to pick the first one. The other two perks are not that very good, so therefore we're not going to pick them. For this one here, we're going to pick Cinch, light attacks and fleet burning on the enemy. So if the fight already started and you either miss the Fireball or you're fighting an archer from far away and you hit the enemy with a light attack, which by the way, this is what I recommend. I recommend that with this build, you use light attack instead of heavy attacks. With the Pillar of Fire build, I recommend that you use heavy attack instead, but we're not talking about that one. And since we're using Singe is going to be proccing Letter Burn, giving us that extra 10% fortify as soon as the fight starts, or whenever you're fighting somebody from range and you cannot get close enough to them to either use them, you know, the Flamethrower and burn the enemy to get the 45. So if you're fighting somebody from range, Singe will be the way to go. Then Clear Casting, after not taking damage for an attack in the last 3 seconds, you will deal 5% extra damage. This will happen so often, guys, so often. Just go ahead and pick it, don't think about it. Then over here, since the Flamethrower guys can no longer crit from behind, we really need as many crit as we can possibly have. So Spell Singer, giving us that 10% increased critical chance, it's almost mandatory. And last, we're going to pick Prophet of a Fire God, which while holding a fire staff, your critical damage is increased by 15%. Again, all of this energizes very well, and that will do for the fire build. Next, we have the Ice Gauntlet, and for the Ice Gauntlet, this is how we're gonna pick it. We want to make our way down here to Ultimate Shield. And the reason we want to make our way down to Ultimate Shield is because that 25% increased damage for 3 seconds, it's really good, especially when you use an ability such like Blizzard or Ice Shower on the enemy for the next 3 seconds. If we have the Aquamarine gem on our weapon, which you should by the way, you will benefit greatly from that. So for that, we need to pick every single one of this one, and obviously we're going to go with the Ice Storm. For the Ice Storm, we're gonna go all the way down, given that, you know, with the more enemies that are inside the storm, you do more damage. And at the beginning of the arena, if all 3 enemies are hiding behind the pillar and you use Punishing Storm, that storm will be doing an extra 30% damage just straight off the bat. Since we need to make our way down to Ultimate Shield, we need to pick everything else until we get Ultimate Shield. Now for the right side of the build, if you like Quick Frost, you can pick Quick Frost. Otherwise, the one that I recommend is Blocking Stamina. If by any chance you don't have your Ice Block ready, or you don't have your Burnout, and your last resource it is to block, Blocking Stamina will come in very handy. Then we're going to pick the Ice Shower. The Ice Shower, it's such an amazing ability because of this ability, we will be able to peel for ourselves, peel for our allies, or freeze the enemy in place to secure the kills, to do extra damage. Ice Shower, we all know it's an amazing ability. It's an amazing ability to start a full rotation, and it's an amazing ability to peel enemies off of yourself. Then we're going to go with Entomb. I believe that Cleansing Tomb is a must-have ability for this build, given that if you're in a 3 vs 3 arenas and you have many debuff on you, like the Poison Arrow, or the Burning from other mages, or the Bleeds from Spear, whatever you want, and you're trying to hide behind a pillar, and all of those bleeds, burning, or poison are taken away the moment that you use Cleansing Tomb, you will get rid of every single one of debuff you have on you, like the Spear Rends, the Scream Rends. Sometimes you get so many debuff on you, like you look at your Bard and you have like 4, 5, 6, 7 debuff, and you're like, shit. You use Cleansing Tomb, boom, you immediately get rid of every single one of those debuff, and now you can start getting your health back without losing a lot of health. Now the last point that we have left, like I talked to you guys before, this is up to you. If you want to play a more defensive playstyle, you pick Defiant Freeze. If you want to pick a more offensive playstyle, you will go with Frigid Showers. In my case, just for the sake of the video, I'm going to pick Frigid Showers, and this is how your Ice Gauntlet build should look like. Now that we talked about our builds, let's talk about our team composition. I know every single one of you will be like, oh, maybe this build is not as effective, but it really is because probably you are playing with the wrong composition. So for my compositions, my preferred team will be a Warhammer Great Axe with a healer. Now this healer, it could be using a light staff with either Ice Gauntlet, Void Gauntlet, or if they're playing a light build, which is very squishy. And honestly guys, I do not recommend nobody playing light build unless you're playing a super assassin build. I would not recommend you playing light build for the 3 vs 3. So, but if by any chance your healer is playing light build, go ahead and use a rapier. The reason I'm picking Great Axe Warhammer is because the CC combination is able to hold a target in place for more than 4 seconds. Now that combination usually doesn't kill the target by itself, but with the combination of the Flamethrower, you guys will almost always guarantee a kill, given that the flamethrower does not interrupt any of the Warhammer CCs. And if by any chance the enemy target that you guys are doing the CC chain on is the healer, I almost guarantee you that that healer will always die, giving you guys that easy win. The moment you guys kill the healer, basically the fight is over. Now, if you have a great synergy with your friend the Warhammer, he knows that he should not interrupt the shockwave CC until the very end, followed by a heavy attack, because you want to take as much advantage as you can from the flamethrower while leaving the enemy on that CC chain. Another combination that could work very well is to replace the Warhammer Great Axe for a Void Gauntlet Ice Gauntlet. If an enemy or a group is caught by an ice shower, it's a nasty combination, because then you can follow that with an Oblivion, the Scream, and your Ice Shower, and then your Blizzard, because it's gonna have two Ice Gauntlets. So the combination of CC plus Ren is going to be extremely brutal, giving you guys a chance to kill any clump or even a single target, because again, even if the target is getting healed, the Void Gauntlet will provide the Rens, and it will also provide the anti-healing, and it will also provide the extra damage for your team, for the flamethrower, given that the Oblivion should be on the floor whenever you guys are trying to kill the clump or you guys trying to go for the kill. Now that we talked about our skills and our team composition, let's talk about our weapons. The first weapon that I recommend here, it is the Fire Staff with Keen Vicious and Keen Speed. Keen Speed is such a fundamental ability and is hands down the best perk that you guys are going to have for the flamethrower build, because this perk alone makes most if not all of your kills possible, given that the moment that you crit an enemy when they're trying to run away from you with a flamethrower, you will be able to keep at the same speed as the enemy is running for the next 3 seconds, constantly burning that enemy in the butt. And even if you are not using the flamethrower, but you're able to crit the enemy with, let's say, a fireball or a basic attack, that burst of speed alone, it will be good enough for you to rotate or move fast. Like, let's say the arena immediately started, and you know that one of the first things that we do is throw the fireball to the enemy side of the arena, hoping that we can get initial damage and chunk the enemy real quick. And if it crits, it will give you such a burst speed that you immediately can get to the enemy tower. And if by a chance it's like an archer trying to backpedal or dodge away and jump and shoot and dodge, if you're dodging and you hit him with a fireball, that extra 30% of movement speed is so good, you guys, that you will get so quick into that archer immediately without the archer having a chance to backpedal too much, and that is how you will get close to the enemies rather quickly. And obviously we're going to pick Keen and Vicious because we already have critical damage in our skill tree and also in our attributes. So stacking critical damage in our weapons is not a bad idea. And as for the Ice Gauntlet, don't overthink it, guys. We won't be using our Ice Gauntlet for most of our damage, so you can go ahead and pick the Curse, or you can pick something similar to this. As long as you have Unending Thought in somewhere in your gear or in your Ice Gauntlet, that should be plenty. We'll be using our Ice Gauntlet mainly, like I said, to peel for ourselves, to use the Ice Blow, but whenever you use the Blizzard, you obviously want that Unending Thought to be there. And whenever you use the Blizzard, if you're able to land a heavy attack to freeze the enemy in place, followed by a light attack, then having Refreshing Move and Enchanted in your Ice Gauntlet will also be very helpful. That's why I say Crystalline Curse is such a cheap Ice Gauntlet to get. Obviously, if you have Arcana in 200, but if you don't have Arcana in 200, then you can go ahead and get something similar to this. Now, let's talk about gear. And even though we're mainly using our Flamethrower as our consistent damage, I still think that Empower and Fireball is the most important perks for Fire Mages, given that Fireball has that extra 32% additional damage, which is basically free damage, guys. Not taking Empower and Fireball will reduce your damage by a tremendous amount. So yeah, again, like I said, we'll be using Fireball off on cooldown every time that we have it ready, and having that extra 32%, it's basically mandatory. The next perk I want to talk about will be Accelerating Flamethrower, that when applying 3 stacks of burn damage on the target with the Flamethrower, it grants haste, increasing your movement speed by 20% for 2 seconds. Now this one, it's so good, you guys. It's so good because after you apply the 3 stacks of burning on the target, as long as you keep on burning the target, that 20% movement speed, it's always there. It's always there. It never goes away. The only time that goes away, it's if you stop damaging the enemy. Now the moment that you go back to them, you have to reapply the 3 stacks. Even if the enemy is at 5 stacks, all you have to do is burn them for 3 times, you know, like 1, 2, 3, and then after the 3rd tick of you burning the enemy, you will get this movement speed. Now know that it's not with a dot, it has to be with a flamethrower constantly hitting the enemy, right? So since you can have 5 stacks of burnings on the enemy, after you get the first 3 stacks, as long as you keep on burning the enemy, that 20% movement speed will remain there the whole time. Like I said, as long as you're consistently burning the enemy non-stop. As you can see here, I already have 2 movement speed buff. The very first one that comes up is the one that whenever I activate a fire ability, I get that 10% movement speed. The second that we have here, it's already on 2 seconds, but that one is whenever I crit, right? So right here I already have 2 of them, and you soon will see the one that as soon as I get the 3 stacks of the flaming on the target, another one will come up here having up to 3 movement speeds at any given time. Obviously the 3 movement speed is not always going to be there. You're always going to have the one that as long as you keep on burning the enemy, and whenever you crit the enemy, boom, you get that 30% movement speed. There it is. And now as you can see, the 2-second movement speed never goes away. It's always there, 2 seconds. Even if you switch target, the moment that you hit that target for 3 stacks once again, you get that 2 seconds. And like I said, that 2-second 20% movement speed basically never goes away. Now that we covered the Fire Staff perks, let's talk about the Ice Gauntlet perk. And the one that I strongly recommend is Healing Tome. Since potions are our main source of self-sustain, the combination of Healing Tome plus a potion, as soon as you come out of the ice block, it can take you, from 10% all the way up to 60% in just a matter of a second, you guys. So let's say that you're in the ice block and you wait until you have full mana, and the moment that you get out of this ice block, you pop your potion, you will get the 10% healing from the Entomb, and if you use the potion, you immediately get the, those two combined, healing you for a lot of health. Now let's talk about the accessories. For the amulets, the one that I recommend is Health and Divine. If you can get this amulet, then the champion amulet will be just fine, since it has a great combination of defenses and offensive perks, with the stamina recovering and the shuriken empowerment, and of course it has health, which is by far the best perk of the amulet. As for the ring, the one that I'm picking here is Keen Awareness and Burning. The reason I'm picking Keen Awareness over fire damage is because since we can no longer crit from behind with the FlameThrower, we really want as much critical rate as we possibly can have. That way we can benefit from Keen Speed. Plus, the fire damage that we get in comparison with the 12% critical chance and the chance of getting that 30% movement speed whenever we crit, it way outperform that fire damage. Now the reason I'm picking Burning is because since we're using the FlameThrower and we want these dots to be on the enemies for as long as they possibly can, this 29% longer, it really adds up, because when you add this plus the 30% of 250 intelligence and the 20% of our perks, it adds up to almost 80%. Adding this extra time to the dots, it really helps ramp up that damage, because whenever we're not attacking that target that we were previously burning and we switch to a new one, those dots will still persist on that target for up to 12 seconds, and it really adds up the damage. If by any chance you cannot get this ring, then the one that I would recommend is Champion's Ring. Now Champion's Ring, it's very good because it has that Keen Awareness, and it only has the Keen Awareness, but it also has the Invigorated Punishment, which is one of the new PvP perks that was just added into the game, which abilities deal 3% bonus damage per buff on a player. Now I want to clarify, when they say on a player, they specifically mean the enemy player, alright? So the more buff the enemy player has, the more damage it will do to them. But since in arenas, all the enemies will have a minimum of 3 buff, given that as soon as the arena starts, they will have the Honing Stone, and then they will have the Attribute Food. The Attribute Food gives you 2 buff, the Attribute buff, and the HP regenerating buff, and that's without counting that they have any other class specific buff. So by minimum, Invigorated Punishment will increase your damage to the enemies inside of the arena by a minimum 9%, and that is just straight up 9% as soon as the arena starts. If they had any other buff on top of that, that will add up 12, 15, 18%. It stacks up to 8 times, which is all the way up to 24% increased damage on the enemy. This ring, it's very, very, very good. It has hardy, so if you're a light user or a heavy user, it's even better for you. For a medium user, it's a very good ring. But it's definitely better for the lights and the heavy. But here you go. If you don't have the keen awareness burning ring, then you just keep on doing arenas until you eventually get the champions ring, which will be an amazing addition to your gear. For the earring, what I'm recommending is Refreshing Toes and Regenerating. Refreshing Toes and Regenerating, these 2 perks right here are by far the 2 best perks that you want on an earring for 3v3 arenas and any PvP in general. Regenerating, giving you 0.5% of your health every second, it really helps your survival, especially when you're running around trying to survive in the arenas and your healer is dead and you're trying to recuperate as much health as you can hiding behind the pillar. That regenerating, stacking with the food regenerating buff, it really helps for your HP to go up rather quickly. Now, since like I said before, our only source of self-sustain, it's the potions that we use inside of the arenas, having Refreshing Toes, having these potions regenerate 29% faster, it is an insane amount of help, guys. If you don't have Refreshing Toes, you will basically lose almost every single one of your battles that last more than just, more than 30 seconds, because the cooldown of the healing potions by default are 30 seconds. So let's say that a fight lasts 30 seconds. If you don't have Refreshing Toes, but your enemy has Refreshing Toes, by the time the fight is being in 21 seconds, they can use their potions again, while you need to wait an extra 9 seconds. That 29% of potions cooldown being faster, it really helps in any single matchup. Now, if by any chance you don't have this earring with Refreshing Toes, regenerating, and some sort of refreshing, well, fear not, because the champion earring is an exact copy of the same earring that I'm suggesting you, with Refreshing Toes, regenerating, and refreshing. The only thing is that the champion earring comes, as a matter, all of the champion's accessories, they come with Constitution instead of Intelligence, or any other stat that you prefer. But it's still an amazing earring, right? The only difference here is the stat differential, but that doesn't even matter, guys. The champion earring is as beast as it can get, alright? If you don't have this earring already, then that's it. The champion earring is by far the best earring in the game, that all you have to do is do PvP and you will eventually get it. That way you don't have to spend 300,000, 400,000 golds in an earring like my earring over here. Now that I covered the team compositions, the build, the perks for your gear, the perks for your weapons, and the perks for the accessories, I would like to cover one of the new armors that just got added into the game with this new PvP patch. And these armors are the ones that come with Shuriken Heals. Now, Shuriken Heals is one of these perks that you can stack up to 5 times on your gear, and the more you have, the better. This Shuriken Heals is an amazing addition to our playstyle, given that we always are in the face of danger and we're constantly dodging abilities. So if we can have several pieces of Shuriken Heals, ideally if you can have 5 pieces of Shuriken Heals, but somewhere in there you can have the Fireball perk, the Healing Tome perk, and the Accelerating FlameThrower perk, that will be the best gear that I would recommend in the game, because having those extra 5 pieces of Shuriken Heal, which it will add up to giving you 500 health every time you dodge an attack, plus 5% of your max HP on a 5-second cooldown. Guys, this means that every 5 seconds, if you guys do a proper dodge through an attack, you could be healing yourself for over 1,000 health every 5 seconds. Now, this sustain is literally unbeatable, guys. When you compare Shuriken Heals with the potions and the healing tome. And if you have a healer in your team, man, the amount of sustain that you have and the self-healing and the survivability, it's unbeatable, guys. Having shuriken heals mostly in every single piece of your gear, it is by far what I recommend the bees. This is the secret of my build over here. I'm giving it to you guys, but this is what I'm aiming for. I still don't have a full set of shuriken heals, but I'm definitely working towards it. The PvP gear that is giving you here in the game, they all come with shuriken heal and resilient. Now, if it is light, it will come with refreshing. If it is medium, it comes with refreshing evasion. And if it is heavy, it will be coming with refreshing ward. The one that I recommend is either medium or light. The refreshing ward is not that very good. But yeah, that's it. Alright, and it seems like we covered every single one of the things that I wanted to tell you guys. The last thing that I want to tell is the reason we picked the FlameThrower, guys. The reason I made this, guys, is because I honestly think that the FlameThrower AoE sustain and the fact that it doesn't have a cooldown and you can always apply the pressure on the healer, on the DPS, and constantly be on the move and be able to do damage, I think this is the way that the mage should be played in the 3 versus 3 arenas. Now, for the open world and the wars, you can still use your Pillar of Fires, but it feels like the Pillar of Fire for the 3 versus 3 is not that efficient, given that the ability doesn't deal enough damage for you to kill people if they have a healer. You know, it has like an 8-9 second cooldown. You can make it quicker than that, but it just doesn't have enough sustain. It has a nice burst, but if the enemy can heal themselves back up, you basically did absolutely nothing. And also, if the healer is like running with like 40% away, a Pillar of Fire is not gonna hit them for 40%. But in the other hand, if you're the FlameThrower and you're on top of them, that sustain and that, you being burning the healer this whole time, it creates such pressure that they lose it all the time. They don't know if they should heal themselves, they should heal the ally, and since you're always on top of them, they basically cannot dodge it. A Pillar of Fire is easily dodged, and if they dodge the Pillar of Fire, they can go ahead and cast their heal with basically nothing to lose. So that's it for me, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. Once again, I'm sorry I took this long to make a video. I've been extremely busy with the stream. Now that we're streaming full time, we're streaming every single day, like 8, 9, 10, 11, even 12 hours, guys. If you guys haven't checked the stream, the link is down below. I would love to see you guys coming into the stream and ask me any questions. If you guys have any question about this build in particular, and you don't have the time to check the stream because of the hours that I stream, you can always leave a comment down below, and I 100% will read it and I'll give you the answer right away. So with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope I see you guys out there. Cheers.
What were we saying, Perk, sorry?
If the depth of the mutations are...
mutation is available, yes.
It's alive now, right?
It's alive, yeah. The depth mutation is
Yeah, it's Morvix, it's live. Is it a good idea to do it at 51, like arenas? I think it would just be a waste of time, guys. What? Why cannot move? I haven't been able to move for like 2 years. Did that guy just apply a coating there? He coded his weapon, dude. He coded his weapon. He has the holding stone in his bar, something. He wanted to use potion, and instead he used. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
This is what we need a ranking.
All three of us noticed that he did a holding stone. I was like, no, he didn't.
Dude, this is what we need a rating, Archie. Man, this left clicker here is very good at the game. That hit me like a goddamn truck. That was a Oblivion heavy attack followed by Orb of Oblivion. Is that the name? Orb of Decay. I always call it Orb of Oblivion. I was like, yeah, Orb of Oblivion. That's the name.
He did it again!
He did it again!
He did it again!